One question is CBDCs, I know you addressed it, but CBDCs have profound implications for bank credit creation, but it also has profound implications for the extraordinary flows of securities fraud, financial fraud, organized crime money. There's now no excuse to say, oh, we can't stop it, we don't know where it's going. How are the central banks going to deal with this?
I suppose they'll need a special department for the illegal transactions.
Right.
It'll exist. It's just we will have no way to check this. Think about the ECB. Just read the statutes of the ECB, originally in the Maastricht Treaty, now part of the Lisbon Treaty. And it's very clear that the ECB is above the law. No state prosecutor of any country will ever be allowed to go into their offices, check any data or any books. Nothing can be removed, taken in evidence, and no ECB banker can be arrested. Now, what sort of organization needs this kind of protection?
Central bank. Okay, so let me quick ask one other question. What would happen if everybody in this audience went out tomorrow and made sure their banking relationship, their credit cards, they moved to the best local community bank, but they persuaded their 10 people in their family and friends to do the same, and to persuade 10 people in their family and to do the same. And while they were at it, they tried to use as much cash as possible in their transactions. What would happen if we could spread that virally?
I think that is a good proposal. To use cash is very important. While that is not community-created money, it is money that doesn't have the control aspect, as what's his name, BIS Managing Director Agostino Carstens laments. If you use cash, we don't know what you're buying, and we cannot stop you.
All our analysis on CBDC, in particular for the use of general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash, and there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
Whereas if when the day comes and you use CBDC, then they can, of course, stop you. They can control this. They know what you're doing. And that control instrument can be fully used. Also, they never talk about the nature of this CBDC. What is it actually going to look like? They never talk about that. Right. But I heard one European central banker tell me what it's going to look like. He saw it. He was invited to one of the old central banks in Europe that are very much promoting this. And they showed him. And, he's a top, executive director of another central bank in Europe. And there's no reason to believe that he was telling me a story. And he was around this large and would be implanted under your skin. So that is the plan.
Right.
And of course, that has other implications on top of what we've mentioned, on top of the control aspects, because that actually enters your body. In my view, violates human dignity, and can be then used for, even in terms of functionality, beyond the monetary and economic transaction purposes. So highly dangerous, and definitely something we have to oppose. And so using cash is one of the things we can do to make sure that the hurdle will be higher for the central planners to introduce the CBDC.
So is it fair to say that CBDC could use not oil as the standard or gold as the standard, but humans as collateral because we're literally chipped like livestock.
That's possible. And
Yeah.
you know, there's a patent.
Yeah.
There's various patents out there that seem to suggest there's some kind of direct link to your body energy and all sorts of things. So that's possible. Also, if there's any functionality that enhances any of your functions, then it could be at the same time a way of downgrading you to humanoid robot
Right.
with fewer human rights. I suppose, as you know, most people following mainstream media and being told the opposite story. No, there's limitations. We can't do anything. We're getting poorer. We're running out of resources, and. So that's the first thing, just to make people aware that, you know, there is a case for abundance. There is enough abundance. It's just controlled by the wrong people and distributed in the wrong way. And those that could create new wealth are being prevented and held back.
But learn how the money works in your town, because I'll tell you something, there's a lot of money.